Hi, cozy friends, and welcome back to Morgan Unraveled. My name is Morgan, and on this channel, I like to unravel my anxious mind with my cozy hobbies, mostly reading and knitting. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, get cozy and let's unravel together. I wanted to film this vlog to kind of motivate me to get started on my Salty Days sweater sleeves. As many of you know, I am hosting the Salty Days knit along for the Salty Days sweater by Kutovakika. I have completed the body except for the hem. I have not summoned the courage to do the twisted rib hem for the entire body. I have put my neckline on. And I finally just picked up the stitches for the sleeves. I have been very much procrastinating this, but mostly because I was undecided whether or not I wanted to knit the charted sleeves that someone in the knit along group chat had so kindly shared their modification of. But I really think I'm just gonna go forward with doing the ribbed sleeve as per Kika's pattern because I trust her and she hasn't led me astray thus far. I'm really happy with how it's working up, and I think that the rib part of the pattern is so squishy and stretches out really well. So I know a lot of people have complained that as they knit the sleeves, they seem quite tight, but I'm assuming that they will bloom, especially because as I've knit, this has bloomed so much. So I'm pretty confident that these sleeves will still be oversized and kind of baggy like they are in the, sample photos. I am knitting my Salty Days sweater in Knit Picks Heatherly worsted weight yarn in the color Sea Glass, and I did size up for this project to 5.5 millimeter needles in order to meet gauge. I am so happy to be working on this project again because I have really been working on everything but this while trying to make decisions about the sleeves and also just procrastinating, like I said, doing the twisted rib hem. If you watched my podcast, you saw I've cast on several things since this project, just keeping myself busy because I flew through the entire body of this. Honestly, this worked up in a couple weeks, and since then I've just been letting it languish. So I am just taking my time with it and working on it here and there. But I wanted to vlog this week working on these sleeves to motivate myself and to share the process with you. It is also October, so I'm definitely going to be knitting on some socks for Socktober. Recently, I cast on my husband a pair of cozy ribbed socks in Cascade Heritage sock yarn in the color Mossy Rock. I actually shared this sock in the podcast that went up yesterday, and you'd notice that I was further along than the heel, and I am back on the heel. Well, I actually ended up frogging it back to the leg. Where I had left off on the leg, I had stopped here, and when my husband tried it on, it was just too short on his leg. I think I was kind of knitting it to my measurements when I did the leg length, and I ended up needing to frog it back so that it would be long enough for his leg. So I added 2 inches to the leg, and I'm now working on the heel again. And I'd love to make some progress on these socks this week as well. I'm really enjoying working with this yarn. It is so soft and luxurious. I can't wait to knit some socks for myself in this yarn. And I'm also really enjoying working with my ChowGoo sock knitting needles. This has changed the game for me with my sock knitting. I did try the 9-inch circulars for some time, but they really made my hands cramp up by not having enough of the needle to hold on to because they're quite short. And that's the intention of them, but I just don't think it works for me. I think it really is a knitter's preference type of situation, and I really do prefer working magic loop on long needles. These ChowGoo needles are so much sharper than the ones I was using to knit socks before, so it's quite nice to work with. I am a lot happier knitting with fingering weight yarn on nice sharp needles, so I do have those linked in my Amazon storefront if you want to check them out if you're looking for a good pair of sock knitting needles. But now let's talk about what I'm reading this week. So in my podcast, I was raving about the Divine Rival series. Last night, I finished Ruthless Vows. This is the second book in that series. It is a duology, so I have finished it, and it is going to live in my heart forever. These characters were so special to me. I truly, truly cherish them. I can see myself rereading this a million times, honestly. Anytime I finish a book, I just immediately want to pick up another one because I can't be left just lingering with the feelings of missing reading that book. So I picked up Normal People by Sally Rooney. I feel like everyone raves and praises this book, especially Jack from Jack in the Books or Jack Edwards. And he is one of my favorite booktubers. So I have wanted to pick this up for a long time, but it was always off-putting to me when I would like read the first page. I don't know about you, but if I'm book shopping, I always read the first page before I decide if I'm going to buy a book. I feel like the synopsis never gives me a good picture of like the writing style, or like the synopsis and the concept can be so strong, but how I feel about the writing style tells me way more about whether I'm going to like the book. And when I'd read that first page, I would always notice that the dialogue is not in quotation marks, which is really off-putting as a reader. But I finally got past that. I just kept reading through it and tried to get with it. But like I said, I started this book last night and I am already 120 pages in. When I tell you I don't read like that anymore, it was so nice to just get so enamored with a book that I couldn't put it down. I mean, I had to put it down because I have a toddler, but I kept picking it right back up, which is the hardest part when you're like a busy mom. And I'm sure I'll have many more thoughts throughout this vlog to share with you, but I'm really enjoying reading this far. So it's really nice to have like back-to-back like amazing reading experiences lately, especially because, as I've said in my recent podcasts, I don't read as much as I used to. I've always been a reader, but because I've really just delved fully into knitting lately, that's kind of what consumes most of my time. So it feels really nice to get wrapped back up in a fictional world with these characters. I'd love to hear down in the comments what you've read lately that has made you feel this way. Like, what's your favorite book you've read lately? And also let me know what you are working on. If you are doing the Salty Days knit along, have you finished it? Are you on the sleeves? Are you on the body? Are you still yarn shopping? But I think that is all the updates I have for now, so let's unravel. While I am working on my Salty Days sweater sleeves, I really just want to have a chat about my knitting and how much comfort it brings me. It's been a couple weeks since I filmed this vlog, and I only am just getting around to editing it. If you follow my Instagram, you'd know why I've been struggling a lot mentally. So I've really just been giving myself grace and pouring myself into my knitting instead of giving any emotional or mental energy to tasks that I just can't right now. But I wanted to share some reflective thoughts I have. I think being in the knitting community, we can often fall into these mindsets of, oh, I should be finishing this WIP. We can come from a place of shame rather than coming from a place of enjoying our knitting and enjoying the self-care and comfort it brings to us. I very much live by the mindset of knitting whatever is sparking joy for me at the moment. I think this project also served as a reminder that sometimes I allow my projects too much negative brain space, and it's okay to just put them down for a little while and pull them back out when I'm more motivated and once I've made a decision. So however you are feeling about your projects is valid, and you should feel able to pick up new projects in between and do whatever allows you to get comfort from this hobby. And I've really been learning to not shame myself for having so many WIPs on the go, because I really think different projects bring us comfort at different times. Different projects require different amounts of mental energy. Some of my knitting projects are more mindful and some are more mindless, and those are both so valuable for different reasons. So if you have any takeaway from this vlog, it is that you should not pressure yourself around your hobbies. You should allow yourself to enjoy them in whatever way works best for you, whether that's having a ton of projects on the go at once and choosing when to pick them up and put them down, or if it's just working on one thing and hyperfixating on it until it's complete. I am now about 2/3 of the way through the ribbing on this sleeve. And as you can see, it's starting to like kind of cinch in, and I do think that is going to block out, and it will probably look a lot like the sample photos. Like it'll look quite oversized on my arm, but right now it looks quite slender, so it's a bit concerning. But I've done 2 out of the 3 sections of decreases. So after I do another round of the decreases, I will be getting to the lace section of the sleeves. And I'm actually pretty surprised that I'm already this far on it, considering I just picked this up today. One of my friends who is participating in the knit along actually was sharing with me that she is doing the charted sleeves. So I had a little bit of FOMO or self-doubt about whether I should have done the charted sleeves to match the body. But I do really like how Kika's sample looks with this ribbed sleeve. So I'm probably just going to carry on and trust the process that this will block out and be nice and stretchy. I think that this project is going to be one of the more fun before and afters that I've ever really had with my knits. I think a lot of the time they don't change that much between the blocking, but I think that this one will definitely make a difference, especially on the sleeves. My son is now down for his nap and it is knitting time. I have completed the ribbing on my first sleeve and done the eyelets. I'm now on to the lace chart. So it's going to take a little bit more attention than the ribbing, and I'm probably going to set my phone up with my charts and watch Pretty Little Liars. I shared on my Instagram stories today that I have been doing a rewatch of Pretty Little Liars, which was so formative of my youth years. And it's crazy because so many problematic things happen in that show. There's so many poor decisions made by the writers. However, I feel like it's just so nostalgic for a specific time. Like, I feel like it is a time capsule of the culture in my teen years. I really, really cherished this show, and just like Gossip Girl, which I was also rewatching, shows like Vampire Diaries, movies like Twilight, and for many people, things like Harry Potter, I think when you rewatch them, it just like really heals something in your inner child. I think it allows you to just sit with your inner child and make space for things that comforted them and really understand yourself in a whole new way. Like, understand why you connected with certain characters. For me, it was Hannah. I connected with her so deeply because of the dynamic with her and her single mother. Obviously, there's some unhealthy dynamics to that as well, but I do feel like I understand why I resonated with her so much. And also with Aria, with her being the artsy English girl, I really loved her as well. But I think we watch things with just such a different lens when we are adults, and it's so crazy to revisit the things that we enjoyed. I would love to hear down below, what is a show that brought you so much comfort, or movie as a child or teenager that when you rewatch now as an adult, you just see it with an entirely new lens? I'd also real quick like to talk about normal people. I don't feel like I really said much about it yesterday when I introduced the vlog and that I was reading this book, because I didn't even know where to start with describing it, but I've since thought about it. And this book follows two characters who come from different social class backgrounds, and they have a romance on again, off again, and their dynamic shifts over the years. Marianne comes from a wealthier background, and she is not very well liked in school. Nobody really knows anything about her. She doesn't really have any friends. And Connell is quite popular, but he comes from a lower class family. His mom is actually Marianne's maid. So that is how Connell and Marianne get to know each other. They start to build a bit of a relationship, but he doesn't want the kids from school to know that he's with her. But this is a coming of age story, so the dynamics completely shift when they go off to college, and it becomes where she is the more popular one. And so they just keep revolving in and out of each other's orbit. They have this magnetism, but they also have a lack of communication. They literally just don't talk about their feelings. They don't talk about what they mean to one another. And they are always just taking the relationship and connection they have for granted. And so they'll kind of break up or just not talk for months and try to move on with a new partner and end up right back together. It is so raw and so real. It is portrayed so intimately, and I feel like you can just really connect with the emotions and the perspectives they have. These characters are incredibly flawed. They make a lot of frustrating decisions. Like I said, they're never communicating the way they should be, but you are along for the ride, and it is a very perfect, intimate, emotional experience of normal people and the way we lack communication in our relationships, even though we mean so much to each other. And I think I'm taking a lot away from it already. I'm about halfway, I'd say. Hold on. It looks like there's about 280 pages, and I'm about 140 in. So exactly halfway. I can already see why this book is so beloved, and I can't wait to continue devouring it. But I do want to spend my son's nap time knitting and watching Pretty Little Liars, so that's probably what I'm going to do now while I get the show on. For those of you who wanted to ask, no, I did not knit this shirt. It is actually thrifted. Today I actually pretty much finished the sleeve, all except for the ribbed hem. I have done the lace chart and eyelets on the cuff, and the next thing I'm going to be doing is switching to the smaller needles to do the twisted rib hem. But before doing the hem on my sleeve, I actually gauge swatched for my next project, my next spring knit, because it's spring here in Australia. I am swatching for my ranunculus with Bendigo's 8-ply luxury wool yarn in the color Soft Jade. Here is how my gauge swatch is looking. I'm going to be buddy knitting that with one of my Aussie knitting friends here. And honestly, this was supposed to be a lot higher in my queue than some other projects that have snuck their way onto my needles recently, including the Dagmar jacket that I shared in my podcast. But Mickey messaged me tonight and was saying that she was going to be casting one on. So I'm like, I am joining you because this has been high on my to-do list for a bit. And I already had the yarn sitting and waiting to be swatched. So in the morning, I will definitely be doing the rib on the first sleeve, and hopefully at some point tomorrow I can actually pick up for the second sleeve, but we'll see if I can stave off my cast on energy for the ranunculus. But hopefully I don't entirely lose the plot for this vlog. I literally just realized I haven't even tried this sleeve on yet to see the length of it on my body, so let's do that. I feel like this is literally the same setup as yesterday, and I've literally put the same sweater back on, but it is now Wednesday, and as I think you saw earlier, I am working on the twisted rib hem. I'm probably going to only do a few more rows of the twisted rib hem, and I will be done with the first sleeve of my Salty Days sweater. I did try it on, as you saw, and it's the perfect length. I'm really happy with it. I hope that the length doesn't change in blocking, but I really do hope that the sleeve kind of relaxes and stretches out in blocking. I'm currently kind of blocking my anchor tee. I use the term blocking loosely because I do not have blocking mats here in Australia. They are all back in storage in the US. So my method of blocking here has been very much just kind of hand washing it, wringing it out. I'll kind of wrap it in a burrito in a towel and step on it until I get all the excess moisture out. And then I basically just lay it flat on a new dry towel on my table so that my son can't like walk over it or anything. But because of that, I'm not able to like pin it and make things kind of stretch out if I need that. It's really just letting it dry flat. But I'm really happy with my anchor tee. I can't wait to get to wear it, especially now that it's like fully spring. It's a beautiful day. I'm seeing so many green leaves when I've been looking at bare trees for actually a year now. When we were moving, we had a couple weeks in the States of seeing trees start to bloom, and then about a month here of seeing the autumn leaves before they all fell. But it's just been a long, cold season. I know I've talked about that so much on this channel, but it's just so refreshing to finally see the earth blooming again. I really feel like I'm entering a new season as well. I feel like after our move, I was really worried, like, how are we ever going to adjust to this? How am I ever going to adjust to this? I'm so far from everyone I know. Most of the time, people are asleep when I'm awake because I'm in a completely new time zone. I'm literally 16 hours ahead of all of my family. So it was really hard to adjust, and I think that once we gave ourselves the winter to kind of just recover from the chaos of moving across the world, I think I've settled in a lot and I've made friends here, which is not something I really even had back in the States. So I'm really finding a sense of self here and a sense of, what our life is going to look like for the next couple of years. And I'm feeling really happy about it. I think that the move also forced me to kind of slow down. If you've been here for a while, you'd know that when we were living in the US, I ran a candle business. And before I had my son, that was honestly what I was pouring all of my energy into. But after I had my son, it was really hard to balance that, even though I loved it so much and feel like I never had enough time to devote to growing my business in a way that would be sustainable, to be devoting my time and obviously investing a lot of money in, because it's a product-based business. So you're investing in all of your materials and you're keeping inventory in the house and having to pack orders and stuff, which I was so thankful for every order that came in. And it was so wonderful to get to do, but in this season of life, I don't feel like it was sustainable. And so moving abroad forced me to just close shop. And now I'm able to kind of do what I'm already wanting to do, which is just knit all the time, but I can share it on here and you guys can join me and we both find so much comfort in it. It's so wonderful. I can't believe how much this channel has grown in the short amount of time I've been doing it. And I'm just so thankful that you're here and knitting with me and enjoying our cozy time together. I think I am going to get to working on this sleeve and I will catch up with you when the sleeve is all done. And I'm hoping to also pick up the sleeve stitches for the second sleeve today. I didn't think that I would be finishing this sweater this week, but it's a potential. Hi cozy friends, it's been a week since I updated this vlog. This is going to be a really heavy part of the video. Emotionally, it's gonna be very heavy. So if you need to click off and watch something lighter, please take care of yourself and do that. If you have followed me for any length of time on the internet, you know that I was a big One Direction fan throughout my teenage years. I have a tattoo of their lyrics on me. I danced their songs at my wedding. I went to their concerts as a teenager. I went to one concert. I would have gone to every tour if I could have, if my mom could have afforded it. And they honestly were such a light in some really dark years for me. And last week, news broke of Liam's passing. He was a member of One Direction. And I know it seems so silly to some people that I am crying over a member of a boy band. But I was a teenager when I loved these boys, and it really sucks to know he was having such a hard time. And he was so young. Like, I genuinely didn't think that a One Direction band member death would happen until I was in my 50s or 60s, you know? Like, this is shocking. It's really shocking. It's really devastating. And the way the news broke with TMZ, including photos of him, it's really traumatizing. But I have been giving myself grace and space. There's literally no way to move through that conversation and into talking about knitting, but I am going to share what project has been getting me through these really tough days, because knitting is really like what gets me through when I'm having a really bad headspace. Like, having something to busy myself and my brain with, my hands, and make me feel productive even when I need to rest and give myself space to just be. Knitting has been something that has been so good for that act of mindfulness and mindlessness all at the same time. It's a really good escape. And back in the day, One Direction was that escape for me, and music still can be sometimes, but The project that's kept me really busy is a new cast on. I cast on the ranunculus with my friend Mickey from Mickey's Cozy Corner. She came over for a bit of buddy knitting and emotional support. I am making a cottony tea version. I am using Fibra Natura's papyrus in the color yellow. It is such a beautiful, like vintagey yellow. It's very muted and pastel, and I think it will complement me so very much. The ranunculus is one of the most knit patterns in the knitting community. It's the most knitted garment. On Ravelry, it has over 25,000 projects. It feels like a rite of passage to knit my own ranunculus. As someone who is an advanced beginner, I will say that this one has tricked me in a few places. I have had some times where I needed to frog back. It's knitting up quickly, but I think it's also because I've been super hyper fixated and just pouring myself into this so that I can keep my brain engaged on something else. There are a lot of little lace designs, but it's not charted knitting. It's very much just line by line instruction. I did size down to 5.5 millimeters for these instead of the pattern, which suggests a 6 millimeter needle. We were planning to knit the ranunculus soon, but as I showed you, I had swatched a couple times in a different yarn, and it just wasn't what I wanted for this project. I really wanted to make a summery version, and that wool obviously wasn't going to give me that. So I spontaneously went yarn shopping and purchased this right before we cast on together. And I'm so very happy with this yarn. I feel like it was all kind of meant to be, because as this yarn wasn't working out and I was swatching for it, Eve from Knitting with Eve posted her ranunculus project vlog, and she used the papyrus yarn, and I really loved it. And when I went to my local yarn store, they just so happened to have papyrus. So I was like, okay, to the yarn store to just find a cotton yarn, and I didn't expect to see that one. So it felt like it was meant to be. So throughout this vlog, I was pretty much working on the first sleeve of my Salty Days sweater, and I think you've seen that it is complete. But as if by magic, I didn't film it. I also completed the entire second sleeve. So my Salty Days now has 2 complete sleeves on it. All I have left is the twisted rib body. I have been procrastinating the twisted rib on the body for an actual month now. I just don't want to put my hands through that pain, but I think it'll be fine. I just need to rip the band-aid off and get started on it. And I'll make sure to take a lot of breaks throughout it and not feel like I need to just cram that knitting the body hem into one session. One of my other close friends here in Canberra, she came by for a knitting date last week as well. She's been going through a bit of a tough time as well, so we really just needed that emotional support. And when she knit her twisted rib hem, she actually did a split hem, which looks really nice. But I do kind of love how the regular body kind of tucks it under, because this pattern is written to be so long. This sweater, when I try it on, is already at a length I would like for it to be finished at. But I think that the hem kind of creates a rolled under look to where the design is kind of showcased more than the bottom, which is funny considering I'm doing all that twisted rib just for it to not be seen. I am really happy with the length of the sleeves. I do just hope that when I block it, the sleeves kind of stretch out and kind of hang loose and baggy instead of like cinching in on the arm. And I think I'm gonna have a lot of this yarn left over, because I had 6 skeins and I still have an entire hank I haven't even wound up, and I will definitely be able to do the hem with this, and we'll still have another like 150 grams of yarn that I didn't use. So let me know if you have any ideas I could use this yarn for besides like a beanie, but maybe if you have a good beanie pattern that could work. Because I'll have either 150 to 200 grams of this worsted weight ice blue color left. But my friend Heidi that I just mentioned actually made me this beautiful project bag for my birthday. She sews a lot. She actually has a business where she knits clothes for Pole. Here in Australia, pole is actually really popular as like a workout or empowerment exercise. And I don't think that's something I've really seen in other countries. Like in the US, I don't think I knew anyone who did pole dancing. But this is just so cute. It has a little made with love label, and she even sewn in a zipper. And inside, she gave me some really cute stitch, and she genuinely spoiled me because she also gifted me some sock yarns. This one is an Isager sock yarn. I've never knit with Isager before. It is so soft. And then these are two hand-dyed mini sock skeins that are so gorgeous. So I can't wait to knit with these. I think this is going to be my main yarn for my Mudo socks by the Petite Knitter. And I will probably contrast it with the leftovers from my husband's sock, which will be really cute for the leaf design. Let me show you how my husband's sock is coming along. I am nearly back to where I was before I frogged now. When I frogged, I was 7 inches or like 18 centimeters from the heel of the foot. And I frogged all the way back to this stitch marker and then added on like 2 inches of leg before doing the heel again, and am back onto the foot. So as you can see, I've just been keeping myself busy with all the knitting things. And I do think that that's a coping mechanism of mine, but I think that is all for this vlog. I hope you are taking care of yourself and spending time unraveling. If you were a One Direction fan and are feeling the way I am feeling, I hope that me talking about this in my video makes you feel very seen. And if you are not a One Direction fan and listen to me cry about that, thank you. Thank you for caring about me. And thank you for being here and making space for me to share that. Thank you so very much for spending time unraveling with me, and I hope you have a very cozy week.